Now I'm going to teach you a little sod. Love sod. We're going to go back to Genesis chapter 23. Genesis 23 opens up with the death of our beloved matriarch Sarah. Abraham comes to eulogize her and to weep for her. Now, in the English translation, you really don't see the word to weep. To weep, actually, I would say, is actually a commentary. He came to cry. He came to cry. That would be the literal translation. But in the Hebrew word ulivkotah, there is a font change of one letter. As you know, a Torah scroll does not have chapters and verses. It has text and paragraphs. Jews don't think in chapters and verses, just to let you know that. We think in parshiot. We think of the Torah portion of the week. So when you're saying chapter 12, we're going back, chapter 12, parsha. Oh, Lech Lecha. Okay, gotcha. Now I know where you're at. This is a thing, like when people say, do you know chapter this, verse that? It took me a while to actually think that way. It's a change of how you look at the Bible from a chapter verse point of view. But if you go to the Torah scroll itself, all you have are paragraphs of text. Okay? And lo and behold, there are font changes of certain letters in the Bible. Actually, 90 font changes in the Bible. Letter font changes. They could be small or they can be big. The first letter in the Bible that's written out, Bereshit, because my understanding is you learned Bereshit last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago, something like that, 2 weeks ago. It has a big letter bet. The first font change, it's huge. Here's the second letter font change. It is the kaf in vilivkotah. The kaf is small. This is the sod. The sod is that there is a font change. That's the secret I'm going to tell you. Now the question is, what does that mean? What is this cry that Abraham is doing? Is it an uncontrollable grief? Is it simply shedding some tears? Or I would say, a silent cry. Now, obviously, the question is, why is Abraham even crying at all? You're all looking at me, why not? His wife just died. Oh, she lived a ripe old age, that's okay. What are you talking about? No, you're right. It's his soulmate. In fact, she is the woman who stood by him thick and thin, even though she was put into compromising sexual situations. In fact, twice. There was the drama of Hagar. Here's Abraham trying to convince the people that there is a God and getting them away from paganism. That's not easy to deal in a household like that. And she stood by him all this time, and my soulmate is gone. It's a different type of grief, and therefore the font change in the kaf. That is one possible way of looking at it. Another possible way of looking at it is he wanted to grieve uncontrollably, but he held it back. Why would he do that? If you look at the episode beforehand, Abraham is about to kill his future. He goes through this ultimate test, and afterwards, God says, "You're my man." Abraham must be flying high as a kite. He passed the ultimate test. He has shown himself as a dedicated person to God, only to find out right afterwards that God takes his soulmate. If it was me, I would have walked away. What type of cruel joke is it that I have followed your direction? I did not question you, only for you to take away the person who gave me my life for me during this earth, my wife. We say in our daily prayers in the evening service, God, please do not put temptation in front of me, nor behind me. In front of me, we all understand. We don't want to get into that test. But what happens if we went through the test? We don't want to be put into a situation where we regret doing God's will. And this is a perfect example of the possibility of regretting God's will. Abraham was put into that situation. And he could have said, he could have controlled, he could have just let out tears. But if he would have done that, he would have shown the world that he regrets doing God's will from the previous test he had beforehand. And therefore, it is this deafening silence. Another way of looking at it. What I'm showing to you is that we have various ways of looking at the Bible, all valid. Each one speaks to whatever, and you take away whatever you wish from it. But we also have in Judaism the concept of sod. I'm giving you sort of the secret. There is a font change. What that font change means is subject to interpretation. So when a translation says he wept for her, that translator made a conscious decision of which interpretation to go for. Because I could have said it was a deafening silence. There's a cry of silence. Same way, same thing. But someone chose weeping instead.